Well, welcome back. We are here with Adrian Garcia from Oregon and Dr. David Snipper from Las Vegas, Nevada. And we were talking in the last segment about some of the incredible things that marijuana and the different parts of it and things that can be made from it and how it helps people. And you were starting to talk a little bit about epilepsy and some of those. Can you expound on that a little bit?
So one of the areas that we're finding a lot of success is in treating, for example, children with epileptic disorders and with autistic disorders. And when you talk to growers, this is the area where they happen to know people who've been treated this way. So that's one of the more common things that we see.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually got a friend who has epilepsy, and he's had seizures, growing up 2-3 times a week, and he hasn't actually had a seizure since about 5 years now has passed. And he started taking CBD extracts and started doing with THC as well, kind of a conjunction. He noticed that with the THC it would work more than just the CBD, which is also another question that's people are kind of asking out there is, do they go hand in hand? Does it make an effect with one or without the other? But absolutely, he's able to now function and do the things, drive as a matter of fact. He wasn't able to drive. He was able to apply for his license and got his license, and so simple things like that, just functioning as a normal resident.
Let me ask you a question, because I mentioned that I had never had any kind of drugs, and it's sort of a source of pride. And at my age now, I don't, I might as well keep my record going. But can I safely take CBDs and feel good that I'm not taking a drug, or I'm not smoking pot?
I personally believe so. Yes. CBDs are not going to give you the effect as a THC, obviously. When you do CBDs, you're not really getting that hallucinogenic, feeling. You're not getting that sensation of whatever it is that everybody seems to be either wanting to do recreationally. Yeah. It's just not there. It's kind of absent, so to speak. But you're getting the medical benefit of it, to where it's just now attacking things where it needs to be attacked, not just your mental head, so to speak.
Now, Doc, let me ask you a question. Is there any benefit for taking it as a preventive tactic to maybe ward off something that might occur?
Well, that remains to be seen. There is actually currently, I don't know if it's been codified yet, there is a diagnosis called cannabinoid deficiency syndrome, where your body's not making enough of its own cannabinoids, and people have then been taking external ones. Whether this evolves into what's actually respected as a diagnosis or not, I don't know. But clearly the cannabinoid system plays a role in most of our body's functionality on an ongoing health maintenance basis. So I would tend to think yes, in answer to your question.
One of the things that, as I understand it, George Washington was a hemp farmer, and the hemp plant, that was our biggest crop here in the United States back in those days, in the early days of the country. And everything was, all the clothing, a lot of the clothing is made out of hemp. Mm-hmm. All kinds of things. You can pretty much make anything out of hemp, right? Yeah, and then it just disappeared. And one of the things that I know you guys know this, but one of the things that made that happen is plastics came about. And it was the whole plastic industry. There was a big company they wanted and it was all political, right?
Plastics replaced hemp, and booze came back and replaced marijuana.
Yeah, a lot of people think it was because it was bad for you, but it was really because of plastics. And it's just like so many things, there's politics involved, and it really boils down to money. And the right people got access to the money, and now almost everything around us is plastic. But it's coming back full circle, because plastics really can make a mess of our environment, and hemp is one of those things that doesn't.
True.
Talk to us about that. Are there any other little things about that the average person wouldn't know?
Well, hemp certainly has all sorts of possible uses. They're making a product now called hempcrete, where they mix concrete and hemp together. It supposedly is stronger than any other building structure that's commercially in use, or at least as strong. It's inexpensive. What we don't know is how expensive it's going to be to cultivate hemp, because it's now just becoming legal again, but that is a very viable potential use. What other uses of industrial hemp have you seen?
I've seen paper. Don't have to go through our trees and forests to get those. Be a great source, for paper. But rope is another
that's
great.
right, rope, of course.
I would
rope, of
imagine
course.
you could maybe even make a like lumber, a substitute lumber,
Right.
out of hemp, and
Sure.
yeah,
Get some type of like an OSB board, some type of something like that, because it's particle board anyway. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't see why not.
well, it's just a fascinating industry, and of course, so many changes. It's just happening at such a rapid pace. But it's the medical part of it that is what's really exciting, and you guys have seen incredible things, and I guess that's part of what fuels the passion, right?
Sure.
Being able to change people's lives.
I had a child with autism who also happened to have Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, 9 years old, and realistically that child should have been dead by that time, but he was 14 when I met him, so it was 5 years later, and he had been treated with a particular strain of cannabis that his mom found for 5 years, and it stopped the progression of both diseases. So it worked
My
for his
goodness.
autism, worked for his muscular dystrophy. Now, it didn't cure either one, but it brought him to a state where he could actually have a decent life. I don't think people realize how debilitating some of these conditions actually can be. They're horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you have some wonderful things in store in terms of products and so forth. Tell us a little bit more about some of the exciting things that are going to be happening in the next year or so.
So, right now, it's so early on. I'm not even sure what our product line is going to look like a year from now, but it's going to be great. I can tell you that much. And thank you for the opportunity to introduce me to Mr. Garcia. We've just been talking about potential partnerships in that regard up in Oregon. There are umpteen opportunities to create viable products. Right now, people like certain things. Vapor products are very popular because they're not smoke, but there are problems. Right? The people that use vape pens, sometimes they get chronic coughs because
Absolutely.
they're using the wrong stuff.
Not only just that, we're talking about things now where we're making extracts with certain chemicals that are not natural. Butane, for example. They're starting to do residual testings. Butane is starting to affect people in the dabs, and we're having the counteractive pills, because people are getting paranoid, or it might be also a factor of the residuals that are left from any other chemical, for that matter, in that process. So, absolutely.
So it's a matter of taking some of the good standards that have been set up in the pharmaceutical industry, good manufacturing practices, and then applying them to this industry
Right.
in order to get a safer, better product. And the field is wide open at that point because the states are just now starting to engage in enacting serious regulations.
Yeah. Well, we only have a minute or so left, but Adrian, any last things you'd like our audience to know?
Hopefully soon we're gonna be launching our flower here, and hopefully look out for bongo buds coming out to the majority of the dispensaries. You'll see a lot of our flower out there, competitions as well. We're going to be out there and trying to do a lot of things for you guys out there,
And doctors' orders banned.
and exactly, and going to try to work with great things, and hopefully a lot of you guys are going to be able to benefit from the things that we're going to be providing.
Okay,
We'll make
great.
ourselves available.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Doc, any last thoughts?
I hope that we can set up an open dialogue with the various communities around the country as far as making sure that people get the information they need.
It really is. It's the information, isn't it? There's so many misconceptions about
It's all about
this because of the history and all those things. But it's changing so
There's
fast.
a lot of teaching and a lot of learning to be done.
Yeah, and that's what I like about listening to you guys. It's just so fascinating just to listen to you. I feel smarter just sitting here next to you because you guys are just have so much knowledge, and I've learned a lot. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for
And,
having us.
Yeah,
I can't
absolutely.
wait to see some of the products that you're going to be having.
gonna
We'll
be
have you
exciting.
back on, and I'm sure you'll have
Yeah.
websites and places to
Indeed.
go order and all those things. So
Of course.
we'll make all
We're
that
looking
available.
forward to all that. That'll
Yeah,
be exciting. It's
absolutely.
going to be a very exciting next 12 months.
2017 is going to be a great year.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks again,
Thanks for having us.
and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye bye.